Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. There's something inside of us that happens when we give. It's just knowing that you've done something that wasn't necessarily expected or even requested at times. Man, this is something I wanted to do. What are the gifts you guys have received throughout your life that, really hit home?
Some of the most simple gifts is like the gift of forgiveness. I think when I receive forgiveness from someone, it's actually a really beautiful thing. I love to take like famous sayings in our society and just basically say they're not true. One I can think of is good things come to those who wait. That is one of the worst sayings we've ever come up with in our society. It's not true at all.
Welcome to the Everyday Leader Podcast. Leadership is a choice. Join me, Matt, and my co-hosts Drew and Tate each episode as we break down how to lead powerfully in your family, team, and organization.
Hey, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Everyday Leader Podcast. Today, the three of us are together, and we're excited to do an episode that's centered around the topic of giving. Obviously, this is our Christmas episode. It's a Christmas season, and there's a lot for us to look at when we consider the power of giving and the power of giving a gift when it comes to Christmas. So, Drew and Tate, excited to be with you guys. And Drew even dressed up for the occasion. He's feeling that giving and festive.
It's my ugly Grinch sweater. So go to YouTube if you want to see what I'm dressed like. But yes, I dressed up for today.
He loves giving so much, he dressed up as the Grinch.
That's right.
It's awesome.
Nope. Excited to be with you both. Matt and I we're all in the Gila Valley, but Matt and I are recording in the same spot together today. And I'm just grateful for Christmas. I think I've said this before to you guys, but it truly is my favorite holiday. There's something about the Christmas season that I at least feel different this time of year. I feel like I long for Christmas in many ways because I feel like it's a renewal in a lot of ways for me of my beliefs and of what's important and of family. So I'm grateful for the season and excited to explore giving a little bit today.
Well, so I read a post on LinkedIn the other day that struck me, and it's like nothing that I haven't thought about or said or read before, and it was a great reminder. And it was a friend of mine, and he said, what I've come to know is that there is no substitute for just forgetting yourself and giving to others. He's like, of all the like self-help things I've done, books I've read, things I've tried, things I've gone through, programs, all this stuff, he's like, there's just no substitute for forgetting yourself and going to serve others and give to others. And I was like, man, that is so true. Like, it is such a powerful antidote to like being consumed with maybe what we don't have, or getting worried and getting down and all that kind of stuff. So curious what comes up for you guys when you think about that, and how you've experienced that in your life.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt, at least for me, that there's something inside of us that happens when we give. And at least for me personally, it's not always in necessarily the person's reaction or anything. It's just knowing that you've done something that wasn't necessarily expected or even requested at times, or it's just like, man, this is something I wanted to do. And for me, that's really rewarding. And I feel a lot of people are probably that way. So the church I've been attending and going to, one of the lead pastors there is part of a group, a nonprofit here locally, and they do a ton with homeless outreach and things around that. And so over Thanksgiving, I thought this was so cool. They actually got the group together and went and delivered Thanksgiving plates. Not, hey, show up and we'll feed you. I mean, they put the plates together and went around and found these people. And the way he described the responses of them was so cool, because here these people are, think about it, we think of giving as giving like gifts, but these yeah, they're giving a plate of food. They're also giving up their time with their family to go serve other people. And just the overwhelming response was, man, I would have never thought that somebody would think of me on a day like this. Um, it was just a cool story. And I'm not doing it any justice trying to summarize it. And I start there with just the whole concept of giving doesn't have to be a gift. Giving can be your time. It can be your presence. It can be your service in any number of ways. And I encourage people to start there, even if you don't feel like you have something to give. Sometimes it's as simple as your presence, and it makes a world of difference. And so for me, it's just thoughts like that this time of year, especially, that they really resonate. I think people are really sensitive to the ideas, whether that's family dynamics or being lonely. Those types of things really hit home this time of year because there is so much family togetherness vibe in the whole thing, and not everybody has that. And I think we need to be sensitive and aware of that, and things that, yeah, your time can matter, make a difference.
Yeah.
As you shared that post, Matt, this is the thought that came to my mind. If you want to be miserable, spend all your time thinking about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's the opposite of that? Well, okay, if I want to be happy, or if I want to find joy, or if I want to find good things, how can I help someone else? How can I serve somebody else? And I think there's a place for taking care of yourself and making sure your cup is filled, right? And too much thinking about yourself often leads to misery, unhappiness, woe is me.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't think about somebody else. You can't give. You can't go participate in things like what you're talking about, Tate, and not feel better and not feel something different. And sometimes, to your point also, Tate, there's different ways we can give. And I've found at different times in my life, sometimes the hardest thing to give is the thing I need to give the most, if that makes sense. So sometimes it's been like, I don't feel like I have another dollar to my name. And what feels the best thing is giving to someone who has even left less than I do. Like maybe that's money, maybe that's food. Or if it's time, if I feel like, hey, I don't have time, sometimes I feel like the best thing I can give is my time. Like taking what I feel is sacred, if my life feels busy, and then dedicating some time to give to others instead of just doing it for me or for my business or the things I want. So that's what came to mind as you guys were both sharing.
Yeah. And, like Drew said, obviously there's a lot of wisdom in taking care of yourself and doing work on yourself. I think we've talked about that on other episodes, right? Like having your cup full and blessing others with the overflow is actually like a really powerful concept. However, if you're feeling stuck or feeling frustrated or feeling empty or feeling behind or feeling like you're not enough, truly one of the best things you can do is give of yourself to someone else. And there's a ton of ways to do that. So you guys know that I love to take like famous sayings in our society and just basically say they're not true. Like one I can think of is good things come to those who wait. It's like, that's one of the worst sayings we've ever come up with in our society. It's not true at all. And so I have another one for us to talk about, which is it's the thought that counts, right? We've all heard people say it's the thought that counts. And I think that there's actually a lot of power in that if we look at it through the lens of like, instead of saying thought, the intent, I think it's the intent that counts, right? Because if we just have a good thought but don't act on it, it's like, well, that doesn't count. That's actually kind of counterintuitive to have a good thought, to serve someone or to give something or give someone something and then not take action on it. But curious your guys' thoughts like around that, because I think sometimes it's easy to have a second thought come in and it's like, well, I don't have time, I don't have money, like I don't have means, I don't have extra, whatever it might be. And it's like, well, what's the intent though? And what gift can you give that's full of intent, even if it's like not full of money or not full of a ton of time?
Mhm.
And I think there's hundreds of ways for us to give in ways that are not conventional and not normal and that are not expensive and not time consuming. And those can be just as meaningful because it's the intent that counts. So
Mhm.
curious how you guys have seen that, either like on the receiving end or on the giving end, of some seemingly insignificant or not fancy gifts that you've received or been given.
Well, we're gonna have to make sure we go in another episode and cover the other thing you said about good
Good
things
things
come
come
to
to those
those who
who
wait,
wait. Yeah.
because there's probably someone listening to
Well,
this that's like,
good.
what do you mean, Matt? But we
It'll
can
be a cliffhanger then for another
we'll
episode.
save that for the next one, but maybe we could save that for our New Year's
Okay,
episode.
good idea.
All right, so all right, so it's the intent that counts, right? So not the thought. Yeah, that I think that resonates a lot, because how many times have I said, "Oh, well, I would do this if I had more of it," and that's totally the thought that counts, and very much not the intent. And I don't know. I think sometimes we don't realize how much like a small gift or small intent can go also,
Mhm.
where, you know, even if life is crazy and busy, like your family, maybe it's the gift of time to your children, where you're working the long hours in your job, or in maybe you've got a side hustle on the side, but to take 30 minutes or an hour out of your evening and just turn off the phone and be with your kids, like, even if it's like I can't give them hours of my time, but I can give them a very intentional 30 minutes. I think those things are what people remember, is the intention behind it. Cause like you could just staying on the same example, you could give your kids a lackluster 30 minutes of your time just because it's the thought that I'm supposed to do it without the intent. And it be a very lackluster, non-memorable moment for your kids, for your family. So I love that. I love that idea, Matt.
Tate, anything coming to mind? I have an example to share
Yeah.
on the recipient end of this that I can share real quick while you're thinking, Tate. So this just happened yesterday. I got a text from a friend of mine, and he's a lot older than me and has always just been really cool to me, like supported me, checked in, like been interested in me. And he sent a text and he said, "Hey, hope things are going well. Like, just wanted to remind you that the first year he has a mental health practice clinic. He's like, in our first year, we saw like 600 patients. And in our second year, we saw 5,000. And this year, we're going to see almost 10. So he's like, just remember, like, keep going." And he's like, "I love you and your family and whatever." And that's super simple. It doesn't cost anything. It takes 30 seconds of time. And yet that's super meaningful to me. Like, that someone would take the time to reach out, to give words of encouragement, to share love. And I mean, that's as meaningful to me as if he would have sent me something significant in the mail or whatever. You know what I mean? So it's just cool how it's the intent that counts. Like, someone
Mhm.
taking the time to send those types of words matters. Like, that's intentionality right there.
Mhm. No, and listening to you guys, it isn't necessarily of trying to come up with examples or stories, because my mind kind of settled pretty quickly on one. It's more trying to find the right words, with just some of the experiences around this year, and I guess just being direct. For those who've been listening, you've probably heard this, but I lost my mom earlier this year, and to Matt's point, with so much of this, a couple things happened. Thinking about how those things go, and I've had friends lose loved ones and parents and different things, and you realize that a lot of us, until you've been through something like that, just you don't understand. And with that, I think we do our best to try to understand and be empathetic and sympathetic, and um, But the reality is that we suck at it. And I say that in the context of doing exactly what Matt was just talking about, or receiving from his friend. And there was a ton of people that did this, and it's the best thing you could do. And it's the intention that counts, of those quick, just, hey, thinking of you, praying for your family, because there's nothing anybody can do in those moments that's going to change the circumstances. They are what they are. And it does, like Matt said, it means the world to know that there's people out there thinking of you, that it's important, and that you're not alone. And it's changed me in the way of making sure that, um, you find less excuses and less reasons not to reach out, even over less important things. I've tried to be, and I'm not perfect by any means at this still, but um, I try to, if I'm having a thought about somebody or something, or act on it. Um, and the same thing in prayer. And I've been taught that when you tell somebody, hey, I'm praying for you, don't put it on your list of things you're going to pray about at the beginning of the next day or that night, because you're going to forget. Take the time, do it then, and just do it.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
With losing your mom this year, and no one being able to, except for maybe those who've experienced that, being able to know what that's like, what would your advice be to someone who has a friend or has a family member who's gone through something tragic? Like, what's the gift they could give? What were the gifts given to you, or what are the things that you wish you would have had given to you,
I
that someone could reach out and give if they have someone who's going through the thing, whatever that is, a loss of a loved one, maybe their business is falling apart, what their marriage, whatever.
I think, just knowing that people are there and people are paying attention, and that they care, that you're not alone. I think that's, and like you said, not even just in the loss of a loved one. I mean, that could be, a divorce. It could be a business. Because the truth is, whether it's a divorce or business dealings, or even, death, the people, there's so much more around it. A lot of the times when you're talking emotions and connections and different things, and just that most people are completely unaware of. And everybody's going to handle those scenarios differently. And so that's why I kind of default to just the fundamental basis of that is letting people know that they're seen, they care, you love them, um, because you can't go wrong with those. Now, everybody's going to handle grief in their own way, and I think, having been through that now, I think we very much need to be aware of that. I think in our selfishness, we have an idea that, people are going to handle it similar to the way we want to handle it. And having been through that, I can say without a doubt, people handle it drastically different. And just because one person handles it one way versus another doesn't mean either one of them are wrong. I mean, a lot of the times in those moments, we're kind of in survival mode, just trying to survive. And we're all wired differently. And yeah, some things are more healthy than others. But it's just one of those scenarios that, you hope to make the right decisions along the way to get to the other side, get to a better place. And there's things within you that are just imprinted for life at that point. And yeah, I don't know. There was more than probably just the question you asked, but
Well, there's a really powerful, I mean, what you said about when you have the good thought, or like when something occurs to you, just acting on it. I feel like that's huge, and that's something for all of us to take away from today, and that's super actionable, right? It
Mhm.
is, the more time we spend trying to figure out or justify in our minds why we would or wouldn't do it, and
Mhm.
what someone else is going to think or how it's going to go, it just diminishes the power of it. And I've found, like you, Tate, that just acting on it quickly is the best way,
Mhm.
and not trying to overthink it or figure it all out. Just send it. Just send the gift, right? If you have an impression to text someone, send the gift. If you have an impression to call someone, send the gift. If you have an
Ha-
impression to write someone a note, send the gift. If you have an
Have
impression to
you
go,
ever have you ever received a text or message from somebody that was just like, "Hey, just thinking about you, man, love you," and had a negative reaction to that?
no, it's never happened in the history of the
Why
world.
were you thinking
Yeah.
of me? I'm so
Yeah.
mad that you were thinking of me. That's all you could
So I
say.
mean, we work ourselves up, and man, is maybe they're
Right.
busy, or they'll do it later, or this is weird or whatever, and like talk ourselves out of these things when the reality of it is, I'm sure there's someone somewhere, but especially if you
Well,
keep
yeah,
it
and yeah, I was just gonna
short
say
and to the point, and just hit it. And
that text may not, if it's a simple text of, "Hey, I know you're going through things and I'm thinking about you." That may not take away your grief, right, Tate? But it still means a lot.
Mhm.
And I think back to what Matt just highlighted at the very beginning, like is it the thought or is it the intent? Like, and that intent can mean a lot. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's like the action from today for all of you that are listening. Whatever good thought comes to your mind, take action on it quickly, and give that gift, whatever it might be. And it may not be perfect, it may not be executed, in just the right way. And do the work to let go of that and take action quickly, and exercise that muscle of responding and acting quickly on the good thoughts that occur. And amazing things happen when we do that. I obviously, the whole vibe of giving around Christmas is really cool. Like, it's one of the coolest things about the Christmas season, and it's all anchored in the fact that God gave his son as a gift, like, to all of us and to the world. And then also the fact that Jesus was willing to give himself and his life as a gift to all of us as well. And so, right, there's a ton of intentionality in all of that. And even though those started as maybe thoughts or words, they got carried out in action through choice. And that's really powerful.
we were, just to our listener, we were talking about where we might go with this episode today, and talking about, and we won't dive into this at this point, but we were talking about how there's a lot of maybe scary, terrible things going on in the world. And to that point, like, what I love about Christmas is that there's hope, that because God gave his son, like, because Christ gave his life, like, we can find joy, we can find life after death, we can give, and it do create miracles. And so as I'm thinking about all of this, I am grateful for this season, and know, like, you can't give to somebody else and not see good things happen to you and your life and to others. Like, it just doesn't happen. When you give, like, it creates, and beautiful, magical things really do happen when you give intentional gifts.
Just curious, um, what are the gifts you guys have received throughout your life that really hit home, impacted? And can you give some examples of something you've received along the way that you're just like, wow?
Yeah, I can think of a few. And what's fascinating, Tate, is that none of the ones that first came into my mind when you asked that are material things.
I had one.
and that's okay, right? There's actually a lot of times the material thing is the conveyor of the message, of the not material thing, right? Of the, like, hey, I paid attention, right? So then you receive the gift of, oh, I'm heard through this material thing because someone listened to something that you needed, or something that you love, or something you care about. So that's cool that you can have both, like a physical gift or a material thing can convey a really powerful message of, hey, I'm I'm accepted, I'm heard, I'm wanted, I'm cared about.
Mhm.
Those are the most powerful gifts I can think of, Tate, are the ones that did bring that message to my heart of like, you're heard, you're accepted, you're loved and wanted, supported.
Mhm.
Um, some of the most simple gifts is like the gift of forgiveness. I think when I receive forgiveness from someone, it's actually a really beautiful thing. Like when someone genuinely accepts my apology or is willing to forgive me, it's like that's a really powerful gift. And that's super simple, right? And it doesn't cost anything. It doesn't even take a lot of time.
Mhm.
So those are a couple that come to my mind.
The first one that popped in my mind was my Super Nintendo at Christmas as a kid, and it made me believe in Santa much longer than I probably would have otherwise. And so I intentionally make sure that I give my kids the better gift than Santa does, so they so they remember that Dad gave
That
the
you
gift.
gave it.
Yeah.
And all jokes aside, I think the greatest gifts I've been given are, to echo Matt's point, haven't been material.
Mhm.
It's been, something big in my life, and getting a letter from my dad just of
Mhm.
advice and wisdom. Spending time with a close family member. My brother gave me coupons last year, like brother date coupons. And as funny as that sounds, it's like we're 12 years apart in age. We're very like we in many ways grew up in two different homes. Like with
Mhm.
that kind of age gap between us, we don't have as much in common as my other siblings. And it's like, hey, I'm glad he gave me a gift of like, hey, let's spend time together this year.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's awesome.
What about you, Tate?
Well, you guys kind of hit it, and I'm glad it went the direction I was thinking because I'm sitting here thinking to
Almost
myself,
took it off the rails.
We're like
as I'm
trucks,
before
money.
leading up to ask that question, though. That's kind of what I was thinking is of the gifts that I've received, and my first thought was basically a lot of them have been people taking the time to teach me a skill or something that carries on for my entire life, and not just a moment. And honestly, the most powerful one, and just the last couple years, it probably really stood out to me is just, and this came from my mom, and that was just faith, in God and our Creator, and where we come from, and she did a remarkable job when we were kids, kind of trying to instill that, and um, that's a gift. So
So I'm just thinking, I love this question, Tate. I'm even thinking of like the three wise men, right? Or then the gifts that they brought.
Mhm.
And we, like, whether it was actually gold, frankincense, and myrrh or not, like, whatever. But just even in that though, like, yes, they brought material gifts, but the journey they went on to go find and worship was the gift, right?
well,
For them too. Like, I mean, what they received back from that was huge. And so, like, yeah, they showed up with a gift to give, but their presence and their love and their commitment, that was the gift, right?
well, and at that time, those were some of the most, if not the most valuable things you could give from a material
From a
standpoint.
material standpoint. Yeah.
And so to travel, like you said, to go the distance and do all those things for somebody you've never met, you don't know, basically divine direction.
As we wrap up, the overarching theme today obviously is, giving, and the action is to just act on the thoughts that occur to you and give that gift, whatever it is, as simple as it is or as complex as it may be, and take
Mhm.
that action, exercise that muscle. Leaders give. I mean, that is one thing, tying it back to being an everyday leader is leaders give. They give without attachment. Leaders give without attachment. They give to create value and give to give. And yeah, there's reciprocity. Like, the giver always receives a ton when they give, and that's not ever the motivation for why they give.
Mhm.
And that's a really powerful distinction. And obviously we see that again in the Christmas story. There's so much giving happening, and that created so much, power from a place of love.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, Merry Christmas, guys. Grateful that we've done this, and a full year of podcasting. It's been really fun, and I hope our listeners found some good nuggets, especially today. I've gotten a couple myself just listening to the two of you. So grateful for that.
Well,
Grateful for each of you.
and this is officially our second Christmas episode, so that's cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. Okay. Well, today's the day, and give the gift that occurs to you. Be a leader.
Thanks for joining us on the Everyday Leader podcast. If you're ready to take your leadership journey even further, subscribe to our weekly newsletter for more insights and practical tips. And don't forget to connect with us on Instagram to stay a part of our growing community. Just follow the links in the show notes. If this episode impacted you, please help us spread the word and share the link with a friend from wherever you're listening.